Hello, welcome back. Well, guess who's back? Well, I'm back. After some time of being away, I'm finally back. Uploading a couple of videos again, because I have too much free time on my hands. And well, to start things off, I simply have all the new characters here in one deck to showcase and mostly talk about how they work and what all you can do with them. Because, I don't really know what else to talk about here. Well, anyway, let's quickly talk about all of the new cards. So, starting from the left, we have, of course, the Pyro Archon herself, Mawika. Perhaps the most versatile character we have in TCG. I mean, this one character can do basically everything. She has, well, relatively high damage burst depending on when you use it. I mean, I'm not gonna go into the specifics how these characters work. The update has been out for a while now. If you are watching this video, I assume you at least know these characters and have perhaps even played them yourselves in TCG. So I'm not going to get into the specifics, but merely what I do want to state is Mawika, the most versatile character in the entire game. Like, you can see our opponent uses her in Overload. I've used her in Overload. Here I use her in a, well, Chaska combo deck. But she can do, I mean, you can use her with Whale because the skill does basically the same thing as Keqing's, aka you can create a 3-cost card which you can then instantaneously discard. Of course, you can argue that Mawika doesn't do damage when you do that, but even still, it's cheaper way to create cards. And who says you cannot play Mawika and Keqing with Whale to get even more discards? Though of course Chaska now exists, which is probably even better, but just pointing out ideas here. So yeah, let's quickly talk about the deck here before I move on to the next character, which is Chaska. So my deck here, quite simple. You wanna basically stack up a bunch of Shadow Hunt shells. These names are seriously too long. Like, can they simply be, I don't know, shells, bullets, something shorter? Well, my complaints about the length of the name aside, but it's simply the game plan with this deck. Very simple. You start with Chaska, swift to Sitlali, round 2 do Sitlali skill, and draw a bunch of cards if you can, because you mostly want cryo bullets, since Mawika's passive skill activates when Chaska uses the multi-target fire, so you don't need pyro bullets as much as you need cryo bullets. But yeah, the core of this deck is indeed Chaska and her Shadow Hunt shells. Quite a unique passive in a way that, compared to something like a Pep that is the closest passive skill to this one, Shadow Hunt shells, when discarded, return back to your deck, which basically means you have an infinite number of them as long as you discard instead of tune them. This of course means she is very good with Whale, but this deck here, for example, does prove she works very well by herself as well. This whole deck, like, this is a Chaska deck. I mean, you can say that it's only good because it's Mawika and Sitlali, but I could also say that any deck is good with Mawika and Sitlali, as long as you of course have a character that does synergize with Mawika and Sitlali. I mean, these characters are the broken ones this patch. Chaska is like relatively, I mean, I'd say she is, in what she does, she is better than her predecessors, because Chaska is a discard character. She discards your cards. The only other character like that we have is Xinyan. And comparing the two, well, Chaska has inbuilt card draws with her skill and burst, while Xinyan is only discard. So she is the, I'd say, best comparison to Chaska, and I'd say I myself would say Chaska is better, since discard decks usually always need some extra ways to draw cards, and Chaska is very good at drawing cards. So I'd say she is the better Xingyan, but that doesn't mean that every deck that uses Xingyan is better with Chaska. Because she is, well, by herself, she can't do much. But in a team comp, she can do a lot. Now here, actually, in the game, our opponent was seriously lucky, but because if you, like, roll back, because I've been yapping, we haven't been following the game. So, what does our opponent do? They, well, swap to Scorpion, discarding the... Here, they discard the Soaring Ascent because of the Quagosaurus, and they even have a Pyro Resonance in their hand. And note, this is round 1. So, like, our opponent was really lucky with their cards here. I mean, mainly getting Quagosaurus, getting Pyro Resonance, and having the proper dice to use it all. I mean, then again, I had pretty good dice as well, you can see from my leftovers, so who am I to talk? But anyway, now that round 2 begins, we can talk about Sidlali. Now, Sidlali, she's kind of a unique one, because she does have a great amount of utility, but compared to Mawika, she isn't as versatile. I'll pause the game for a second here because I want to yap again. So, the skill, for example, once you've used it, you cannot use it again for the current round and the following round. Which basically means you cannot use Sidlali as a damage dealer, because, I mean, using the normal attack is often not worth it. Of course, something like Mawika's passive, when you have Night Soul Blessing points on Mawika, you can very well do Sidlali's normal attack, because the follow-up Pyro means you actually do some damage, and it instantaneously activates the passive skill as well as the talent card if you have it equipped, since it creates a melt reaction. And following that, the Pyro damage is increased, so you can do another normal attack, and now you do even more damage. But you usually don't want to do that. I mean, most Sidlali decks, you use her skill, and that's all. Of course, with Sidlali, I mean, I'd say Crab is the only exception to this rule, but you almost always you wanna do the skill on round 2, because like I said, you cannot redo the skill for the current round and the following round once you have done it. And since most games are decided on round 3, like unless it is a stall deck against a stall deck, most games round 3 is like the significant mark point, like that round it becomes basically clear which side wins. And which is why you should do the skill on round 2, because most decks round 1 cannot or will not take out your active character. They will not kill it. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but most decks are either unable to do that, or they don't do that because they do setup, like my deck did in first round. I had Liven and I put the Laboratory Ruins, you know. Most decks do not kill you on round 1. I mean, even this is a very aggro deck our opponent has, but they were unable to take out Chaska here on round 1. So, why is this all important? Like I said, it lasts for 2 rounds, the time you cannot redo it. So you wanna do it on round 2, so it also covers round 3, so you have sorry about that. You have the skill active on round 3, and you do not have to waste dice on round 3, the most important round, you don't have to waste dice in redoing the skill. Since Sitlali does best in different combos, because how the elemental skill works and mostly how the passive skill works, because that is the important part. Basically, she only generates shields unless you have 2 Night Soul points. And when you have 2 Night Soul points, then she is really becomes actually like a threat to the opponent. Because the amount of combo damage you can do when the skill it's Papa, which one? Opal Shield? It's Papa does the damage, alright. So that one cryo damage she does when her Night Soul points reach 2 or above. That is to say, you have 2 Night Soul points and she would regain a point from her passive or the talent card. Yeah, once again, turning back into the game, you can see I was quite hold on. Why can I not? There we go. You can see I was quite unlucky getting only one cryo bullet here, but it is what it is. Also, our opponent is doing their best to mess up the combination I'm going for, but seeing that their dice are on the low side, we should still be able to do the big damage Chaska skill here very soon. But yeah, so like I said, Sitlali does best when in combination of specifically Hydro and Pyro, that is to say Frozen and Melt reactions, because her talent card is the best way to have her regain more Night Soul points. It isn't really worth it to use the... I mean, you can use the... what's the... Phlogiston card. You can use the Phlogiston card to make her not lose Night Soul blessing points, but in my experience, I have played quite a lot of Sitlali, and in my experience, the talent card is always a better way, because, well, most decks that Sitlali is good with include either a Hydro or Pyro character, and then you might as well use the talent card because she provides extra damage. And this, like, hold on, I think we get it active here in a second. Let's speed it up a little. So there goes the cryo damage from the bullet. Then we draw 2 cards because we discarded the new Quagasor card. Mavuika passive skill activates, and well, that was an instantaneous one shot that you can do with this deck, but there, the Night Soul Blessing correction, I think that was the passive skill activating.
Whatever you need.
No, hold on, we have the dump. So that was the talent card activating, because we had the cryo application and it was followed by melt reaction. So the talent card activated, we gained 1 Night Soul point, which really mean we reached 2 Night Soul points. This whole thing is getting too complicated to like talk. I gotta switch up how I make these videos. Like, there's too much going on to try to explain it like shortly. But anyway, the talent card activated, we did a little damage, and we now have the damage boost. And this damage boost, it works for swirly actions, character skills, and summons. I have not tried whether it works, for example, Fatui resonance cards and whatnot, because, well, I haven't come up with a good deck that has Sitlali and double Fatui. And, well, in all honesty, I have not been interested in trying out whether it works with those, but considering it seems to appear the same way, for example, that Shenhe's buff appears, it most likely does not buff Fatui resonance cards, and that sort of things. But the things you need to remember, mostly that is that it works for summons. That's the important part you need to remember. Not only your characters, but also your summons. And as an added bonus, it also works for swirl reactions.
Drop your weapons.
Honestly, there's so much fucking stuff going on with these new characters. Also here, little notice about my deck. I'm running a double Lotus Crisp on this deck because my first version of this deck did not have, only food was the Mystic Soup. And well, I had a lot of games where one of my characters was taken out early in the game, and I was unable to do the whole combo that I wanted to do with this deck. So I came to the conclusion that Lotus Crisp is a good addition simply to keep your characters alive. In this situation you see here, for example. We played the Crisp so that Chevrolet could not take out Chaska, that is. Of course, whether she... I mean, I guess our opponent would have done it, because, I mean, why wouldn't you? Here you also get the basic luck with Chaska. We had 1 Pyro and 2 Anemo, and of course both Anemos are discarded before the Pyro gets ever applied, so we cannot get the nice swirl damage there. Which honestly, I'd say the biggest critique with Chaska I have is the randomizing of how the multi-target fire discards the cards. There is no like set logic behind it. They are always completely randomized. And I'd say that is Chaska's like the biggest weakness, why she isn't reliable. Because right there, if we had gotten the swirl, like you can see how much damage we were, like 3 damage here, 3 damage here. These would have been active, and like I said, it works for swirl, so one of them would have actually taken 4 damage. And well, now Scorpion would have had the same amount of health as it has at the end here. You can also see there the damage buff does work for Mawika's passive skill. It did 2 damage. But yeah, the fact that it's completely randomized every time, it is the greatest like problem with it. If it even was for like, when the bullets come to your hand, let's say they come in the order, like from left to right, in order you draw them, and then it would just like, when it discards bullets, it discards them from left to right, if it discards them. So if you have like 2 Cryo and Pyro bullet and they are your highest cost cards, it discards it Cryo, Cryo, Pyro, instead of whatever random order it decides to take. But yeah, I mean, I really like Chaska, but it is that randomness of her technique that makes her like too unreliable. Here our opponent, well, both sides are not looking good at this point, but seeing that we still have dice, we still have the upper hand, so to speak, and I decided to end the round early because I have Liven on the field, I have 3 dice, I might as well just end early and get the first action next round. Yeah, let's get back to commentating the games. I mean, trying to explain character kits, it's too much work with this, when there's so many mechanics in the game. Oh boy. So, here at the end, well, I don't think nothing that special. You can see I'm trying to be real fucking smart here, so basically both of my characters have Pyro application, Thunderbolt Trap is active, So, you know I'm going to, if I do a skill on Sidlali, I'm going to get thrown to Mawika, and Mawika probably gets taken out, and then I get thrown back to Sidlali, so I equipped the conductor hat because I knew that, well, I have 2 shells, he has 2 characters with 1 HP, so there's quite likelihood that I'm gonna snipe one of his characters with, their characters. I mean, I don't know who is behind that Donatus nickname there. Nickname, alias. So yeah, I'm just trying to be real smart here,
Get to work.
playing the conductors early. And of course now I can also like threaten burst to do basically a triple kill.
Rise with the sun.
Here, somewhat surprisingly, like, I mean, I guess I do have like 3 HP in total because I have 2 opal shields, which, by the way, I somewhat dislike that the opal shield has its... Why does the opal shield have its unique display instead of the usual shield icon? Because, you know, Noelle shield gets this icon, Zhongli shield gets this icon. Every other shield gets this icon, but Opal shield gets a unique icon. And I do think this is a little like distracting. Like you've standardized all the previous shields to this shield icon, but then Opal shield gets a unique one. Like its papa is the indicator of how long the skill is active. Why does the opal shield also need to be like unique? I mean, we already know that when you have a bunch of different named shields, all bearing this icon. So I mean, I guess they just wanted to give her a nicer design.
The flame burns.
Also there I did specifically a normal attack so that I can still threaten Sidlali burst, because if I had done the burst it would have been 4 cost and I wouldn't have... I mean, technically I would have had the dice because of the conductor's hat, but playing it safe. And here, just like I had expected, the conductor's hat activates and we take out one of his characters, and well, that's game. But that's not all, I still have another replay to show you so I can continue my yapping, so let's switch to that one. And here we go with the next match. I mean, this is more, this time let's talk about more about the deck if you like wanna try it yourself. So, like little bit earlier I did explain, the game plan simply is start with Chaska, do Chaska skill, swap to Sidlali, or well, you do not have to swap to Sidlali if you, let's say, do not have Liben on the field. But basically you want to swap to Sidlali so that you maximize the amount of Cryo Shadowhunt cells you get on round 2. And the other important thing is you want
Leave me alone.
to get set up, because round 2 what you want to do is Sidlali skill, Mawika skill, and Chaska multi-target fire. And that's a lot of dice, so you always want to do setup on round 1. And most importantly, you do not want to do the skill on round 1, because then you are going to lose the Night Soul points you initially get very fast, and then it becomes harder to proc the talent card plus passive skill combination, so that you get the extra cryo applications on the opponent. So you always want to do setup on round 1. Of course there are situations where you simply cannot, and then if you cannot, Mawika skill takes priority over Sidlali skill, because once again we want to do Sidlali skill on round 2.
Show no mercy.
Extra damage wise, well, simply put it, this right here is your extra damage. You don't need anything else. I mean, okay, we do have the Mystic Soup, which can give you extra damage, so there is that. But you already really want to play the talent card for extra damage, because when you have the bullets, the damage is going to be enough. There is nothing to fear once you have all the bullets. And also with Mavuika, you always want this one because it works just the same way as a bullet.
Chamber full.
And here I think you are gonna actually see like a proper nuke with Chaska. So there we played the talent card for extra damage, and well, pow. So there we discard the first bullet, we discard the second bullet. Sidlali's talent card plus passive skill activates, and Mavuika's passive skill, and voila,
Sorry.
taken out.
I pushed myself too hard.
Here also I decided to pick up a Nemo bullet, since, well, what else I'm gonna do with one dice at that point. And anyway, I took out one of their characters, so they're like doing another nuke is not that necessary anymore, because they are going to have a hard time getting the bullets for Navia, so there's really nothing to fear for me. But I've had games with this deck where you can do a double. If you are lucky with Shadowhunt cells, you can get a double nuke. We are talking about you one shot a 10 HP. Hold on, I don't think I've one shot a 12 HP character, but like you saw there, one shotting a 10 HP character is perfectly possible. But yeah, I've had games where like I do the double skill and it's basically 2 nukes. I one shot 2 of the opponent's characters. But that requires first very good luck with your shells and very good luck in the order of their discards. Because once again, Chaska's biggest flaw, the fact that they are always the bullets, and whatever you discard, the order is always randomized, and that is the biggest flaw.
Hey there.
And well, this game is no surprise how it ends. But yeah, so to put it simply, to wrap it up here at the end, Mavuika works with bloody everything. Chaska works with discarding, very good for whale, but as proven in this video, also works in simple decks that are revolve entirely around her. And Sidlali, well, she works in combo decks, I'd say. And well, okay, she works also with grab, but there's really nothing innovative with that one. Like any character that creates shields works with grab, but nevertheless, that's all for today. See you next time.